Here is everything you need to know about being a new player in World of Warcraft. We'll be covering races, classes, choosing Horde or Alliance, and what you can expect when you load into the game for the very first time. World of Warcraft has been around since 2004 and has seen 9 expansions, with a new one set to be released in the fall of 2024. So if you're feeling slightly overwhelmed, fear not. I'm here to help you understand the basics and get you started. So the first thing is you'll be selecting a server when you load into the game. Now if you have friends who already play and you want to play with them, you need to select the same server that they're on. Otherwise, you can select one that says normal as opposed to RP, unless you plan to pay RP, which is role playing, but if not, just select the normal server. There actually are specific servers for new players and you'll see them on the menu as an option. So if you want to play with other players that are new, then this is the right option for you. The next thing is making sure that the language at the bottom is the correct language for you. So if you're English speaking, make sure you select the English language servers. Now the population relates to how many other players are currently using that server. High means there's a high population, medium is medium, and low is low. Pretty self-explanatory. So once you've selected your server, you'll then be through to creating your character. This can feel slightly overwhelming looking at this for the very first time with the sheer amount of options you have, but don't worry, we'll make sense of it. So the first decision is to select whether you want to be part of the Horde or the Alliance. This will dictate which races you have access to and whose point of view you'll be experiencing World of Warcraft from. All races are split between these two sides. They've been at war since the very start, and while by their appearance it would seem that the Alliance are good and the Horde are bad, the Horde don't see it that way. They band together to survive the tyranny of the Alliance and value honour above all else. Now personally, I've been a proud member of the Horde since the beginning, and I've never switched sides. So once you've selected whether to be part of the Horde or the Alliance, it's time to select your race. So each race has its own set of racial traits, which lend them to be slightly stronger with one class than another. But these can largely be ignored unless you're aiming to be a player who wants to min-max and 100% elite the game. But otherwise, pick which race looks cool to you, as you're going to be looking at this character for a very long time, and if something bugs you about them from the beginning, you're going to be annoyed by it. So it could be something to do with the way they walk, their voice, the way they look in armor. This can grate on you as you continue through the game. So again, pick which race looks best for you. Now, there are a number of classes per race. It's worth noting, not all classes are available to all races, so this fact could help you decide on your race. Before we get down to the classes, let's briefly go over the roles. So first up, we have the tank. This is the person who soaks up as much damage as possible, getting enemies to attack them, leaving their teammates to deal damage and kill the enemies. Next up is healer. Now healer does exactly what it sounds like. They're responsible for healing their teammates, making sure the tank doesn't take too much damage, and keeping alive their damage dealers as they kill the enemies. And lastly is what is referred to as DPS. This stands for damage per second and refers to those members of the party responsible for dealing the damage and destroying their enemies. Okay, now let's look at the different classes and give you a basic breakdown. So here you have warrior. Classic melee, big armor, big energy class. They could be a tank or DPS, and they use hand-to-hand combat to deal damage to their enemies. They've got a lot of armor and they're great for solo play as well as playing with a party. Hunter, the classic kill them before they can get too close class. They're a pure DPS class, so if you like ranged combat, bows and traps, then this is the class for you. They also have the ability to train pets to fight for them. Now I'm not talking about Whiskers the cat, I'm talking T-Rex, Rhino, Lions, and anything else you can think of. This makes them a great solo class and a really easy class to play. Mage. Ice, fire, and arcane magic make you mage. Being a pure DPS class, they're capable of putting out some serious damage from afar, and they're a lot of fun to play. However, they are rather squishy if the enemy gets too close, but all the more reason to make sure they're dead before they get to you. Rogue. Stealth, daggers, and ambushing are a rogue's best friends. This is a DPS melee class unlike any other. They rely on using stealth to ambush an enemy and massive damage to kill them as quickly as possible before disappearing once again into the shadows. They're a slightly more technical class to play, but a lot of fun and capable of some truly brilliant damage. Priest. Priests are a great class for those of you looking for something a bit more technical in your playstyle. They could be either healers or DPS, however their healing is where they truly excel. They are essential in most dungeons and raids, as their goal is to keep everyone alive. Their shadow magic is their DPS, and capable of incredible damage if used correctly. Now they're not very new player friendly, but one of the pinnacle classes in World of Warcraft. Warlock, using fire and shadow magic to obliterate their enemies. They're another pure DPS magical class, and rely on their demon pets and magic to keep them alive and make their enemies suffer. They're a lot of fun to play, and because of their pet demons, they're pretty good at solo content too. Paladin, the self-righteous jack of all trades. Paladins can do it all, tank, heal and DPS, which makes them a solid all-rounder class to pick. They're great for solo content with their tanky nature and high survivability, meaning they can put out the damage as well as take it. Being a melee focus class, they're also brilliant tanks. A great pick for the new player. Druid, the shape-shifting, nature-loving beasts. Like the Paladin, the Druid can do it all, tank, heal and DPS. Only Druids do it in style. They shapeshift into a bear when they want to tank, into a big cat for DPS, and they can heal too. Now if melee DPS doesn't sound like something you're into, then the Druid also has magical range DPS in the form of a huge killer owl. Great for new players. Shaman, friends of the earth and the elements. The Shaman is both a healer and DPS, with an interesting skill set comprising of a mix of melee and magical range damage. They have something in the toolkit for almost all situations, and make for a good solo class, as the damage mixed with self-heal is a lifesaver and a mix you won't want to mess with. Monk. Think Kung Fu Panda and you're pretty much there. The monk class was actually introduced along with the expansion that saw pandas come to Azeroth. They're a melee class capable of doing it all, tank, heal and DPS. They got a very different playstyle than any other class in World of Warcraft and can be a lot of fun to play. Demon Hunter. Badass name, badass nature. The Demon Hunter can run tank and DPS and look awesome while doing it. Unlike most other classes, this class is only available to Knight and Blood Elves. Transforming into a demon to deal damage or soak it up. They're a real unique class and something to be looked into after you're familiar with the game. Death Knight. Big swords, dark magic and disease. The cheerful life of a Death Knight. They're capable of tanking and DPS and really excel in both areas, to be honest. This is another class worth checking out at a later date, as I don't think you're able to select this class as a new player. I could be wrong, but that certainly used to be the case. Evoker. Ever thought, man, it'd be cool if I could change into a dragon right about now? Well, now you can. The Evoker class is capable of being a healer or range DPS, and was introduced part of the Dragonflight expansion. It's a super cool class, lots of fun to play, and looks awesome. I mean, come on, it's a mini dragon. So once you've selected which race and which class you want to be, then you get to customize your character. Now don't worry too much about this and don't get hung up too much about it, as you can change literally everything in-game. So what you do here is by no means set in stone, but it does give you a good idea as to what your character could look like. So once you're happy with your character, you can go ahead and create it. So now you're faced with two options for your starting area. You could either start in Exile's Reach, which is a newish starting area created to give everyone the same starting experience, introduce you to the game, and get you to play through a learning campaign where they'll teach you the basics of how to play. Now the other option differs depending on which race you choose, but it's ultimately the original starting areas before Exile's Reach existed. Now it's completely up to you which experience you choose. However, for a brand new player, I would suggest you go with Exile's Reach, as it offers you an easier intro to the game, as well as teaching you some basics. Plus, the campaign is actually kind of fun. So there you go. That's how to go about getting started in the wonderful World of Warcraft. Please do like and subscribe for more World of Warcraft content, and if you have any questions, please do ask them in the comments and I'll respond as soon as I can. I will be doing more intros for new players to World of Warcraft, so keep an eye on my channel, hit that subscribe button, and welcome to WoW.